What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the NFC version of the video I posted yesterday, which is the best preseason week one performances for every NFL team. Now, like I said, this is the NFC version of the video I did yesterday. If you're a fan of any of the AFC teams or you just want to see the 16 guys that I highlighted in yesterday's video, make sure you check it out and make sure you like and subscribe. Now, the whole point of this video is to somewhat introduce you guys to guys who are maybe fringe or bubble contenders to make their respective rosters, or they're possibly guys who are new additions, whether that's through the draft or through free agency. And this is kind of a way to highlight their first introductory performance with their new teams. And starting off with the NFC East, with the Dallas Cowboys, I have Camden Brown. He had 3 receptions for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns in Dallas's win over Seattle this past weekend. Camden Brown is a undrafted free agent out of Georgia Southern. He's a guy who has really been impressing in camp, both in rookie minicamp and training camp. And with his performance against Seattle, it goes a long way in him potentially making the roster in Dallas, even though they have a really good wide receiver room already. For the New York Giants, Malachi Fields with 3 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown. Not an incredibly impressive performance, but again, given that this was the first week of preseason, it was a performance that, Malachi Fields as a third-round pick is looking to establish himself as a key contributor in this offense and in this wide receiver room, and with guys like Malik Neighbors or Odell Beckham Jr. or whoever else you want to highlight in that wide receiver room, there's not really anybody I would say is massively established outside of Malik Neighbors in this wide receiver room. So Malachi Fields getting a good, productive start to his career is going to go a long way for him. Mac McWilliams for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a draft pick last year for Philadelphia and really did not play at all. He appeared in 5 games, all on special teams. He had 10 tackles in their game this last weekend. Katron Allen for the Washington Commanders, a 6th-round pick, provided 23 rushes for 85 yards and a touchdown. He is a guy that slots in as probably the 3rd or possibly 4th running back on this team. And if that's the case, if he is able to produce at even half of the level he had this last weekend, he's going to be a very valuable reserve running back and could be a guy that in the future is looked at as a more key contributor to this Washington offense. For the NFC North in the Chicago Bears, I have Case Keenum. Keenum went 9 for 10 with 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rush for 6 yards on the ground. Keenum is not going to be a starter for the Bears, and he's probably not going to be a starter for any other team in the NFL. However, he is vying for that backup quarterback role with the Chicago Bears. It's really been a battle between he and Tyson Bagent these last few seasons, and it's just really good to see if you're Chicago. It's good to know that you have a guy in Case Keenum who's an ultimate veteran, and he still is a guy that I think can help develop both Bagent and Caleb Williams, and he's a guy that can really provide some great veteran wisdom in that quarterback room. For the Detroit Lions, I have Ahmed Hassanein. He had 4 tackles and 2 sacks. He was a 6th-round pick for Detroit last year, and he didn't end up playing a single snap after getting signed to the practice squad in November. 2 sacks. This is a team in Detroit who's looking to have anything around Aiden Hutchinson in the pass rushing department. If he can be a solid contributor, Detroit's going to be very happy with that. Trey Smack, a 6th-round pick for the Green Bay Packers in 2026, went 3 for 3, including a 58-yarder in his preseason debut. And Jacob Thomas for the Minnesota Vikings, a undrafted free agent. Just a really good story, somebody from James Madison University who is really unheralded and not very known, and getting 4 tackles and an interception in his preseason debut. He is probably a real long shot to make the roster, but if this performance can go a long way in him making the team or even making the practice squad, I think he would be very happy with that. Going to the NFC South now with the Atlanta Falcons, I have Sidney Brown. Now, Sidney Brown was traded for in this previous offseason. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of him in a Falcons uniform. He did come over to the team from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's probably not going to be a starter. That position is going to be held up by guys like Jesse Bates and Xavier Watts, but Sidney Brown is probably the guy. Once Jesse Bates is gone from this team, he's going to be guys stepping up, and it's just good to see that he's making he's making productive plays for Atlanta. Even though it's just the preseason, he's still playing hard. Kenny Pickett for the Carolina Panthers going 16 for 19, 92 yards with a touchdown, as well as 16 yards on the ground. Probably going to be the number 2, or depending on when Haynes King comes back, how he performs the rest of this preseason, we could even see Kenny Pickett as the number 3 quarterback on this team. Good to see that he is productive in this game. There's always a chance that some team is going to come calling, thinking that Kenny Pickett could be their stopgap quarterback or possibly just a veteran in their own quarterback room. Michael Heldman for the New Orleans Saints, an undrafted free agent out of Central Michigan. This is a guy who had 2 sacks in their game this past weekend, and New Orleans is just really going to be looking for guys to get after the pass rusher. Cam Jordan had a really good season last year, but given his age, there's not a lot that you can, I think, count on going forward. So if there's just guys who are either developmental projects or guys that can come in and produce right away, New Orleans is going to be looking for that. Tampa Bay with Aiden Garnes. He had 3 tackles as well as a 47-yard pick 6 in their game against the New York Jets. Tampa Bay, with some of the departures and some of the injuries that they've suffered in their secondary, they're going to be looking for guys to make plays in the passing game as well as against the run. And Aiden Garnes did that, both of those things in the game against the Jets. Like I said, 3 tackles, a tackle for loss against Breece Hall, and that 47-yard pick 6. Finishing up now with the NFC West, with the Arizona Cardinals, I chose Jeremiah Love. 11 rushes for 59 yards, as well as 3 receptions for 14 yards. He just looked really smooth the times where he had the ball in his hands. I know it was against guys who were probably second, third, or even fourth stringers on their respective teams, but I think this was a really good performance from him, not just the numbers, but when you saw him with the ball in his hands, it looked really good. It looked really smooth. It looks like Arizona has their guy in the backfield for the future. For the LA Rams, they probably have their guy at quarterback for the future in Ty Simpson, 21 for 25 for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. A guy who, like many quarterbacks that I have highlighted over these 2 videos, Ty Simpson's not going to play in 2026, barring the unforeseen or, knock on wood, if Matthew Stafford gets injured. Ty Simpson, this is a developmental year, and this is a really good performance to kind of, I think, get him some confidence for the rest of the season, for him to just perform well in practice. He's going to have a really good defense that he's going against in his rookie season every single day, and getting to perform against other teams in the preseason, I think, goes a long way in getting him that confidence. Dejon Stribling for the San Francisco 49ers, a guy who probably should have been a first-round pick, but with the number 33 overall selection, the 49ers made Stribling their prized possession of the NFL draft, and he rewarded them so far with a 7-reception, 63-yard performance in his preseason debut. For the Seattle Seahawks, Tyrese Knight, a guy who has been with the Seahawks organization now for a few years, 10 tackles and 2 pass deflections. I don't know if Seattle is going to call on his number more than they have in the past. He's not been a guy who has been like an every down player. He's been a rotational piece in that linebacker room. But he, alongside guys on that defense, he could be a valuable piece. Like I said, they did make an investment in him with a draft pick a few seasons ago, so I'm sure Seattle would love to see some production from him in 2026. That is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure if you want to see the AFC version of this video, you click down below on my channel. It's also going to be linked right now on your screen, and I'll see you in the next video.